Hi everyone, Tony Tonkin here from Things That Matter. Glad you could be with me today to talk to you about all the things that matter to me. I'm assuming that some of those things will also matter to you. So we celebrate the fact that there's probably nobody watching this right at this moment, but it's something that you can connect with later on if you so desire. And what we ask you to do is to subscribe to the Things That Matter Things That Matter YouTube page, and to make sure that you also ring the bell. So this is an opportunity, as I said, for us to talk about everything that's important to us. The first thing, of course, is COVID-19 and its impact in Victoria, and it's pleasing to see that the numbers are falling there. Celebrate the fact that the Victorians have finally got their act together and they're not spreading the virus around the rest of the country. I was very disappointed, though, I must confess, for noticing that Queensland may be putting some restrictions in place over there. As I said on my last feed, my wife and I plan to go there at the end of next month, and unfortunately we have to check it out as to not only can we get in, but can we get back to South Australia at the end of the day, because it's uncertain as to whether that will be possible as well. So we're hoping that all things will be right in Queensland. The sunshine, beautiful one day and worse the next, whatever it is that they say. And we're just thinking about those people in Victoria, though. Congratulations for at least being able to meet the crisis in the way that you have, and for making a difference for the rest of us, because that's vitally important as well. Now, there are a few things that have happened in overseas, and as some of you may be aware, I am remarkably interested, but extremely naive about American politics, because the Americans, they have this idea that they are better than everyone else. I'm not speaking about all Americans, of course. I'm just speaking about those that seem to have political power. That there's this sense about American exceptionalism, that they are exceptional in so many ways that the rest of the world admires them for this sense of exceptionalism, and that we should live up to whatever it is the standard is that they have set. And so this may not interest many of you, but recently, as of today actually, Kellyanne Conway has resigned from the White House. Now, for those of you that don't know, Kellyanne Conway is the most dishonest but loyal Trump follower you can imagine. She's been fighting for Donald Trump from day one, or before he even was elected. And she gets out there, or she had been, she's not so much recently, but she's been out there every day propagating the crap that is Donald Trump. And she does it very, very well. I mean, she was the person that coined the phrase alternate facts. So if you've got a fact that you don't like, you can look for other facts and find that those facts are actually her version of the truth, and therefore we should believe that. So she has resigned because of family issues. It's interesting to note too that her husband George Conway, both incidentally are Republicans, but George Conway has joined the Never Trumpers. And so he and his wife were continually fighting, as well as George fighting with Donald Trump over the stupid things that Trump does and says, and has declared that he'll never vote for Trump, and that he established the Lincoln Project, which sets up a number of advertisements and promotes anti-Trump sentiments, I guess. So George has decided to give that up as well, because he and his wife believe that they should get back to their 4 children, of which one of them, a 15-year-old, whose name I just can't remember at the moment, has declared that they're crappy parents. And because they're so crappy, she has decided that she wants to emancipate from them. So she wants to divorce her parents. What a good idea. We as Americans, as a country, I'm sure many Americans have wanted to divorce themselves from either Kellyanne Conway because she's so into the hole with Donald Trump, and George Conway because he's a hate Trumper and an ex-Republican. So I guess the daughter's doing all the things that a lot of Americans would like to do anyway. So that's what's happening there in the US. And of course, this week in the US, they have got the GOP conference in which today, I think, or yesterday rather, they they nominated Donald Trump, of course, as their candidate for 2020. And now they have the whole of the family of Trumps as a dynasty talking over the next 2 days about all things that are them. And it's exciting to watch how they will be advocating for themselves. I love the idea that the United States, and particularly, the United States particularly, would love to have a dynasty. You know, there was of course, there was the Rockefellers, and then there was the Kennedys, and then I guess, well, the Reagans didn't quite make it. That was a bit of a shame. The Clintons tried to, but they tended to fail at the last election. But that the Trumps are definitely working towards having a dynasty. Yeah, like I believe that the people in the United States would love to have had a king and a queen. They would love to have had somebody that they could have celebrated, and they could have pageantry, and they could do all the things that other countries that really do have kings and queens tend to do. And they would certainly love to have a king and queen, particularly in this case a king, such as King Trump, who would be able to be an autocrat amongst a system that recognised royalty. So this is what they're aiming for, and I guess they will never achieve it. But they do some interesting things, though, in order to appear to be, so, like in the UK, you have a peerage. So you have people that have grown up as kind of part of the royal family. So they have viscounts, and they have, peers, and they have all these other fancy titles, which I can't quite remember right now. So they have all these fancy titles that they use, and they get passed down from family to family. And so, you could do bugger all, but still have a peerage of some description, and even have representation in their upper house. But in the United States, they do something that I think is really bizarre. They actually don't have peerages, but they maintain titles. So you could have been president 20 years ago, and you still get referred to as President Clinton. You could have been Secretary of State, as Susan Rice was, and you get still called, Secretary Rice, or Albright, Madeleine Albright still gets referred to as Secretary Albright. It'd be like if Bob Hawke, God bless his soul, if he was still referred, well, he wouldn't be now, but we'll take Howard. If Howard was still referred to as Prime Minister Howard, I mean, how bizarre would that be? I saw Pete Buttigieg on YouTube the other day, and he was still being referred to as Mayor Pete. He's no longer mayor of that small town, wherever it might be, because he's just given up that job. He's now working for the Biden campaign. So, but he's still referred to. They love titles. I don't understand it. We have to work hard for our knighthoods, and I can guarantee you I won't be getting one, but I'm sure that there are lots of people out there who have got their Order of Australia and pin it proudly on the wall, and why wouldn't you? Because most of the people that have got those things actually have earned them, have done something worthwhile or of value, and are recognised by the community and the state for doing so. Not in the United States, I don't think. Well, if you do, it stays with you for life. So I find that quite fascinating. So what I'd like to do is have a look at some clips that I've put together of some Sky News responses to the election in the US. I haven't got much Australian content today, so I do apologise for those multiple number of Australian viewers whom we'll have watching us today. But I do have some interesting comments to make about Australians' attitude towards American politics. And the reason why I do this is that my greatest fear is that at some point we will become more and more Americanized. Now, we can't say that we don't become Americanized when you look at the types of clothes that we wear, the music that we listen to, where we become culturally immersed in all things that are American. It was interesting. I don't know if anybody saw that clip recently about a woman who has a pet emu, and she calls the emu, and it was on television because I don't know whether I can't remember what the story was. She lost it or something, or wandered off, and they call it emu. Emu is what they call them apparently in the United States. And it became sensationalised because Australians contact them and said it's emu. It's not emu, it's emu. And then they came, so I saw a video on it, and then I heard it on the radio this morning that they were saying, they were interviewing this bloke who was a radio announcer in the US who insisted that it was emu. And we were saying, no, it isn't. That animal comes from here. We don't call a kangaroo a kangaroo. You've got to get it right, folks. And so it became a bit of an issue that they were calling it emu, and it was an emu. So Americans don't always get it right. They haven't done so politically for years. They don't even do it when it comes to naming an Australian animal. So back to the reason why I have put together a couple of videos of Sky News. So I had one of Alan Jones, but I lost it. I don't know where I put it in the end. But I got a couple of these three twats talking about the election, and I'll just sort of do some sections of it, and then we'll kind of have a chat about it on the other side. Let me know if you're here. If you want to make a comment, please feel free to do so.
Tell us about Joe Biden. There's an amusing ad that the Trump team have put out.
Well, people were so thrilled, the Democrats anyway, that Biden managed to get through the auto queue without stumbling this week. But this video kind of gives you a picture of Biden before and after. Have a look.
He became president. I didn't go, and I'm still vice president.
Don't you love that bit about him stumbling through the auto queue? I was gonna put up something in relation to Donald Trump just stumbling. He doesn't need a auto queue to stumble through. We can see that man walk downstairs, for example, or walk down a ramp, and we see him stumbling. But it was interesting to me how they decided that. So the criticism, it's really fascinating. Watch this. The criticisms that they offer of the criticisms they offer of Biden can be replicated 100-fold with Trump. So, what they're saying about Biden also applies Trump. Now, I'm the first person to admit that I don't think Biden's the best choice they could have made, frankly. I think Kamala Harris would have been a great choice. I think Pete Buttigieg would have been better. I think there were other candidates. Cory Gardner would have been better. I think there were other choices they could have made. But this is democracy in the United States. Who knows what they're doing and why they're doing it? And they're busily trying to do things that placate one side against another. Bernie Sanders, he would have been a great candidate, but the right wing of the Democrats would never have allowed that. So that just didn't happen. However, Joe is working hard to implement some of the left or the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. So 10 out of 10 to you, Joe, for at least working hard enough. And the other question now, Joe, is whether he's got to last the distance. But, like two old farts working away at this, I don't know whether Trump would survive it either. The man's heaps more unfit, I think, than Joe is. And probably is less likely to make the distance if he has another term anyway. But the question is whether Joe's going to make the full 8 years. That's the question. So let's hear what more these twats have to say.
But I reckon it's true. I think Donald Trump is going to win in a landslide. And the reason I say that, James and Reed, is because...
And in addition to that...
I just want to apologise that I put on the wrong clip. So I just want to come back to that first one, and then we'll have a look at the other one, which was about Trump winning in a landslide, and talk about that on the other side of that. But this is the other clip I was playing.
In addition to that, we have to make sure that we are in a position that we are.
Think about it. Everybody has known from day one how smart, how bright Hillary is. Everybody knows how tough she is.
You know, the rapidly rising I don't know.
Okay, so we've got the impression that Joe's slow, and I think that there's no disputing that, he's probably lost a few yards over the years. But on the other hand, Trump has lost his marbles entirely. I watched a really interesting documentary, which is worth getting hold of if you can. I don't know where it's available, to be quite frank, and I'm afraid to tell you how I got it. But it's called Unfit, The Psychology of Donald Trump. And it has George Conway in it, spouting his stuff about how hopeless he is. But it's really worth having a look at, because it does. So there's a. I'm trying to explain. How can I explain it? There was a ethical reason why psychiatrists would not talk about clients that they had not physically met, and there was the Goldwater. I think it was called the Goldwater case, or the Goldwater something or other, which basically said, because back in Goldwater's day, he was a guy running for president. That so it must have been back in the 50s, I think. Someone, please correct me. I'm not a historian. I'm just a humble social worker. But back in the 50s, anyway, there was this bloke by the name of Goldwater, and apparently a bunch of psychiatrists got together and said that he was a psychopath, and that he was not able to become president because he was not appropriate because of their diagnosis of his psychopathology. So psychiatrists decided that they couldn't analyse people based on what they saw back then. But what they've come to realise is that the diagnosis they made then, and the understandings that they have around psychopathology and narcissism in particular, have changed over time. And because of those changes, they now are prepared to say that we can actually observe, which is what therapy is when you think about it, or what psychiatry is, observing people's behaviour and then making decisions about whether that behaviour is fits into a certain category label. Not into that myself, but nevertheless, that's what psychiatrists do. They label stuff, and this is what it looks like. So that Goldwater stuff is no longer appropriate, even though some people will argue that you shouldn't do that. So this is why a group of psychiatrists, like 1,000 of them, have got together and they've put out a book, which warns us against Donald Trump and people like him in particular. And there was also another case, which we as social workers know, called the Sorotov case. Now, Sorotov was a clinical psychologist who was told by his client that the client, was going to go home and murder his wife. Now, the client did just that. And the psychologist failed to take any action or warn the wife that her husband had in his mind to kill her. Now, her family sued the psychologist and won their case, and that became known. That was about in the mid-70s, I think. And Sorotov case became a big deal because we, as social workers, psychologists, and medical practitioners, know that if someone threatens harm towards somebody else, client confidentiality goes out the window, and that we should report these issues. And so what that has meant is that we should make sure that we warn people if we believe that they are likely to be harmed. So what's happened is the psychiatric profession and psychologists as well, I think, are now saying we need to warn people that this person is dangerous. So it isn't that you have to go out and kill somebody. Well, I guess it is. That's dangerous. You need to warn people about that. But we also, as one psychologist said, or psychiatrist said, we need to go out and warn people about the potential danger this man has, not just to the community and not just to Americans, but to the world in terms of what he is capable of doing, because primarily, and one of the primary issues here is that he lacks complete empathy. So he doesn't understand how his behaviours impact other people. They are, from my own personal experience working with people, they are the most dangerous people you can meet, because they have no understanding whatsoever, firstly about how their behaviour is, what their behaviour is, and how that behaviour is impacting other people. And people like Donald Trump just don't care. So, importantly enough, this person who doesn't care, it gets the support of Sky News, because either they're all psychopathic as well, or they just don't care, or they're just a bunch of morons. Personally, I'm going with the morons.
But I reckon it's true. I think Donald Trump is going to win in a landslide. And the reason I say that, James and Rita, is because wherever Black Lives Matter have gone, they've left destruction, communities destroyed. Wherever Antifa have gone, wherever the Democrats have sat back and said, let's defund the police, always, always, it is the little bloke and woman who loses out in these mad actions. And I'm convinced the silent majority of Americans are just sitting there waiting till they do get to that ballot box, with or without mail fraud, James. But Rita and James, what are your thoughts on Trump's chances? Rita.
Look,
So before we get to Rita, it's worth acknowledging I have no idea what the hell he's talking about, seriously. It doesn't make any sense to me about Black Lives Matter. And so, so it's when they conflate the ideas around Black Lives Matter and Antifa and all this other stuff, and that the media does not report, so they say. Look, I've seen heaps of examples of places burning and rioting going in a direction that it shouldn't. Now, if media is not reporting that, how in the hell am I seeing it? I'm psychic. That's what it is. I'm just visualising these things that are happening. They're not really happening at all, because I would not know unless the media was presenting it. So I see plenty of those examples, but I also see plenty of examples where people are protesting appropriately. Plenty of those as well. So which ones do I support? I support the peaceful protesters, obviously. But these right-wing crazies seem to think that, if you're getting this other view, that you're not getting this other view. I don't know which world they're living in. Because, I as a progressive am seeing these things. Why aren't they seeing them? I don't get it, and I don't understand. I actually just don't understand that mentality, quite frankly. But here they go.
But I reckon it's true. I think Donald Trump is going to win in a landslide. And the reason I say that, James and Rita, is because wherever Black Lives Matter have gone, they've left...
I do apologise. I forgot to put this on a non-loop, so you're just about to hear him again. But it's not very long, so bear with him. So you can have this reiterated, as painful as it is.
Destruction, communities destroyed, wherever Antifa have gone, wherever the Democrats have sat back and said, let's defund the police, always, always, it is the little bloke and woman who loses out in these mad actions. And I'm convinced the silent majority of Americans are just sitting there waiting till they do get to that ballot box, with or without mail fraud, James. But Rita and James, what are your thoughts on Trump's chances? Rita.
Look, I don't think it will be a landslide. I'll tell you why I think the violence we've seen in recent weeks isn't perhaps going to have the impact that some say it will. One, because that's predominantly happening in very much Democrat cities, cities that never vote Republican. So you just can't see the Republicans picking.
Can I just make a point there? It isn't just happening in Democrat cities. It's happening, it's happening all over America. And there are plenty of cities in the US that are predominantly Republican, I think, and it's happening there. This inference that because you're in a city that has got, so some of these cities have got Democratic governors, but they also have large pockets of Republicans. So when they vote and the electoral colleges come together, it's the Republicans that seem to win. So to say that they're all friggin' they're all Democrat cities is just stupid.
Democrat heartland. And the other reason is, yes, we talk about it on this program, but much of the violence, the absolutely awful beatings, arson, property damage, it's not being reported on. The US media is not interested because the reporting on this stuff accurately.
I just want to affirm for everybody that is a load of crap. As I've just said, the media does report on it. It's just that they don't. These people would like to focus on it 100% of the time. They'd like to have cameras just stationed there while places are burning and saying this is predominantly what's happening. No, it isn't. And this notion that it's Antifa and other people causing this problem is probably not true, but it's also irrelevant because it takes us away from the real reason why people are dissatisfied in the United States.
Helps Donald Trump. So they just don't report on it. And I think that's going to be a factor. I still think Trump will win, but I think it will be a very...
So they don't report on it because it would not support Donald Trump. So if they reported on it, it would support Donald Trump. Is that what they're trying to say? So if you do report on these fires and this other sort of stuff, what a load of garbage. No, I think people are smart enough to see that these are a group of people that just should not be doing this shit, but are doing it, and that somehow, at some particular point, we'll focus back on those people that are actually protesting peacefully.
Victory, but it's not. I'm not confident enough to put any money on it. What about you, James?
Look, I think it's going to be a narrow win for Trump, but I think I agree more with what you're saying there. I think, though, the real danger is what happens after election night, because the Democrats and the left are going to do everything they can to call every ballot into question. We will watch on election.
This bit I love, and this is one, I guess, the real reason why I thought this video was worth playing. Is because at the end of the day, it is Trump fanning the flames around what's going to happen at the end of this election if he doesn't win. This is where the Democrats are not saying, there's nobody else but Trump saying that if they lose, that they'll be checking the ballots and there shouldn't be that many postal votes and all that other sort of shit that he carries on with. We know that this is coming from Trump, but here we have these Australian blokes telling us that it's the Democrats that will be, causing all the trouble if they do not win. There's never been from my knowledge, there hasn't even been a statement in relation to that from the Democrats. It all comes from the Trump. So they're mouthing these Trump words, but couching them in the terms of the Democrats and what they're likely to do.
Day and election night, there are going to be court challenges about what's happening at polling booths. There's going to be court challenges on all sorts of things about the admissibility of ballots. And it is going to be a very long and protracted process, I think, to discover who is the winner. And I think the Democrats have every intention of making it as absolutely difficult, because if Trump wins and he wins, by a small amount, or...
Hold on, buddy. It's Trump that's making it difficult, not the Democrats. So, we do agree that there will be some challenges, but it is the Democrats that are primarily on the right side of this ledger, as opposed to the Republicans and Trump fans who see that this is going to become a hell of a battle if he loses. Ain't that the truth?
happens last time happens again, you know, he wins the electoral college, but
Yeah.
he doesn't win the popular vote.
Okay, well,
that's
we've got
be really destructive.
We've got a long way to go, so we'll see who's right. But one of the reasons I'm claiming it will be a landslide, Rita, is I believe, although you're right that the press don't talk about these things, social media is absolutely abuzz with them. And one of the videos that went viral last week, which is absolute knockout, highlights the very reason why, certainly in my opinion, this person is going to win, as well as Donald Trump. This is Kim Klacik. She is live exclusively on Outsiders. We'll quickly play.
So we're not going to watch Kim Klacik because they didn't put it up on this video because it finished in 15 seconds. So thank God for that. We've all been saved. So I guess there's some issues there that when I first started this session I didn't really think about, but just came out. So be it. And there is some stuff that's happening in Australian politics that we need to talk about as well. And just remember too, folks, that at the moment the Child Protection Party is looking for membership in South Australia so that we can get our membership up here so that we can meet the requirements of the Australian Electoral Commission. So if you're watching this and you're not a member of CPP, please contact Avery Hilditch at CPP and get a membership form, or even better, just go on to our website, and as soon as you get on, a little thing pops up and asks you to join. So join with us, make a difference, and I really hope that today you've enjoyed having a chat about things that matter.